Hello patron and welcome back to my life. It's Writer Wednesday, the day that I talk about the art and the business of writing and tell you how I do what I do as an indie author. Today we have another question from my patron Kristen Stevens, who asks, how do you know when it's okay to give up on a scene or an entire story, and how do you know when you should fight for it? Different answers for different writers at different stages of their careers. If you are a beginning writer, you should not worry about this question until you have started writing. Right? If you have this concept for this story, but you have all these doubts and considerations and like, oh, it might not be good enough and like I might need to change it and da-da-da, stop saying that. Write the story. Just write it. Now, if you are writing and you're tens of thousands of words in and you are not totally feeling it and now you feel like giving up, I will give you a pass. However, if you have done this like 5 times, knock it off. There's lots of writers who go out there and start new projects, get tired of them, start another new projects, get tired of them. And so I'm putting the cutoff limit at 5. If you've done that 5 times, you are not allowed to start anything new until you finished one of them. And from then on, it's a 5-to-1 ratio. You are not allowed to start more than 5 times as many projects as you have completed after that point, okay? This is the rules. I didn't make them up. I literally just made them up. Because so many people use, oh, it's not good enough as an excuse to never frickin' finish anything. So don't do that and prevent it by making sure you finish things at least occasionally. So these are stories. These are complete works. Might be short stories, might be novels, might be novellas, whatever you happen to write, that's talking about the whole story. What about scenes, individual elements? And let's not just talk about scenes. Let's talk about all the different parts of a story. A scene. Sometimes you need to cut out an entire character. Sometimes you need to cut out a subplot or like a location, right? Like an entire area of your story where multiple scenes might take place. How do you know whether it is something that should be cut out, and when do you fight for it? Well, the answer is you cannot possibly know the answer. If you are in a confusion about this, if you are hesitating, if you are not sure, you are never going to be able to determine the answer. You have to get professional outside input from somebody whose advice is actually valuable. For most people, this should be a developmental editor. That is pretty much the best person whose literal job it is to tell you, yeah, this thing right here, this does not work. That is practically the entire job of editors who work for traditional publishing houses, as has been very hilariously told by such notable authors as John Green, for example, who had entire scenes at the end of The Fault in Our Stars where his editor was just like, this? No, not this. We can't all afford a developmental editor. If you have a writing partner, if you write as a team, if you have co-writers, that is usually pretty good, because if one of you has just some wacky out there idea and the other one is like, no, then it's probably not a good idea. This is, of course, predicated on the belief or the operating basis that both of you are at least fairly competent storytellers. Because even as competent storytellers, we can have blind spots and we can make mistakes. But if we have another competent storyteller to check our work, they can go, no. And if you're not co-writing and you can't afford to hire a developmental editor, you gotta rely on your beta readers, and that's why you have to make sure that you have an excellent team of beta readers. I've said so many times how many times my beta readers have literally saved entire books of mine, so that is something that I rely on quite heavily, although I will be hiring a developmental editor in the future, he said, for the 3rd year in a row. I'll get there. I swear I'll get there. We all like to believe that writing is this singular, solitary activity where some guy or gal or non-binary pal goes off into a room by themselves and sits there for an indeterminate amount of time, and out comes a masterpiece. And it's not true. It's bullshit. That's not it. Books come together with teams, and there might be like the person whose name is on the cover, but if they don't have outside help, if they don't have outside influence and somebody to steer them in the right direction when they're going wrong, it's not gonna be super great. Obviously, while you're working on your book, use your own best judgment, weigh things as best you can, make sure that you are thinking with all of the things of theme and emotional resonance and character development. But if you're getting farther and farther in the book and you're still undecided about a scene, a story, a character, a subplot, Ask for help. It does not make you a worse writer. It will only make you a better one. Thank you so much to Kristen for the question. This was a fun one to talk about. And I will remind everybody else who's watching that $5 patrons on my Patreon get to see these videos 2 weeks in advance of everyone else. And they are also the only people who are allowed to request topics for me to talk about in future videos. If that sounds interesting to you, check out my Patreon right down here. And otherwise, do all the usual good stuff. Give the video a thumbs up, subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to my patrons for their incredible support. And I will see you next Wednesday. Bye! Nailed it.